Have you ever heard of a town that drives people crazy? A place where thoughts are like a storm that washes over you when you enter, forcing you to listen to every single person's innermost feelings? And what if the one person who knows how to escape this place is after you? Let me explain. As far back as he could remember, Thomas had been plagued by voices in his head. They whispered endlessly, chattering about everything and nothing, creating an unsettling background noise that made focusing on anything difficult. For 29 years, he endured this aloneness, convinced it was a curse. But his life changed forever at age 30. He was standing in the middle of a traffic circle in a city he'd never been to before. It was big, bustling, and exciting, exactly the kind of place he needed to disappear. To start his new life, Thomas left his hometown. When he entered the city, voices flooded in, thoughts from everyone around him, their joy, fear, lies, everything. He quickly realized this wasn't a curse, it was a gift. The ability to read minds. When Thomas entered another city, the chatter started again. This time it was manic and loud. People's minds were everywhere, bombarding him with sights and sounds. Thomas fell to his knees, overwhelmed. In that moment, he understood why the locals looked so worn out. He spent 2 weeks in a hotel room recuperating. Every time he stepped outside, the cacophony got worse. So he stayed inside, desperately trying to make sense of what was happening to him. That's when he discovered he could focus on a single mind and block out the rest. At first, it was accidental, but soon he was consciously tuning people in and out. He could even turn off his own thoughts, cutting himself off from the world. This gave him a semblance of peace. He was still hearing voices, but now they were a dull roar instead of a scream. He started exploring the city again, keeping his head down, listening to as little as possible. Then he met Emma, a woman who worked at the front desk of the hotel. They bonded over her collection of classic films. She didn't seem to notice how distracted he was or how he sometimes tuned her out completely. She was kind and funny, and Thomas found himself enjoying her company. But as they started dating, his powers became a bigger problem. He could feel Emma's thoughts, of course, but he could also hear other people thinking about her. Men leering at her as she walked down the street, strangers sizing her up while they waited for the bus. But there was something else, something sinister lurking beneath the surface. A man he often saw around Emma sent him mental pictures of her sleeping, her mouth open, her throat exposed. Each time this happened, Thomas felt a surge of protective anger. Who was this guy and what did he want? The worst part was Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that the man was watching Emma. One day, Thomas followed the man. He watched him park a black van a few blocks away from Emma's apartment building. Then the man disappeared into the crowd. Thomas lingered around the neighborhood for hours, waiting. Finally, the man came out of the building and got into the van. Thomas kept following him, not knowing where this obsession would lead. The man took him to a seedy part of town and parked in front of a rundown bar. Then he went inside. Thomas hesitated, torn between his need to protect Emma and his desire to keep his gift a secret. He decided to follow the man in. As he entered the bar, he heard the man's thoughts. He was talking to a shadowy figure in the corner. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Thomas listened intently. The man was discussing Emma, saying she was beautiful and vulnerable, and no one would miss her if she disappeared. Thomas's blood ran cold. This man wasn't just obsessed with Emma, he wanted to hurt her. And then Thomas felt it, a jolt of recognition. The man in the shadows was thinking about him. The thought was sharp and clear. He knows what you're planning. Thomas froze. How did this guy know what he was thinking? He turned and fled, racing through the crowded bar and out into the night. He didn't stop running until he reached his hotel. Bursting through the door, he locked it and leaned against it, panting. He had to tell Emma, warn her. But as he reached for the phone, it rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. Thomas hesitated, then picked up. A raspy voice said, "You shouldn't have followed him. You're in danger." Thomas frowned. Who was this? An unknown number? How did they know about Emma? Was she in danger? Before Thomas could ask any questions, the line went dead. Adrenaline surged through him. He had to see Emma, now, as he raced toward her apartment. Thoughts pounded in his head. Every person he passed had a story, a life, a secret. He could see their pain, their regrets, their darkest desires, and now he was hearing them all at once. He burst through the door and found Emma sitting on the couch watching TV. Relief washed over him. She was safe. But as he took in her relaxed posture, he noticed something strange. There were bruises on her arms. Emma looked up, her face pale and drawn. "Emma," Thomas said, his voice hoarse. "That man, the one you saw, he was talking about you. He wants to hurt you." Emma's eyes widened, her gaze flickering with fear. They spent the night together, Thomas and Emma, curled up on her couch, watching the city lights twinkle outside her window. Neither of them spoke much, but the silence wasn't awkward. They were both thinking the same thing, wondering if they were truly safe. In the morning, Thomas woke up on the couch, his head pounding. He glanced at Emma, who was asleep in the chair. Beside her, the TV was on, the morning news droning on. Thomas tuned them out, focusing on the reporter's face. He wanted to know what was going on in that mind. The reporter was reporting on a missing persons case. The victim, a young woman named Emma Hayes, had vanished without a trace. Her family was offering a reward for any information leading to her whereabouts, and then Thomas heard it. The reporter was thinking about how sad it was that such a bright young woman could just disappear, and he was also thinking how easy it would be to take someone like Emma off the streets. Thomas's blood ran cold. This was the same man from the bar. He knew who had taken Emma. Suddenly, Thomas felt a sharp pain in his head. The reporter's thoughts were piercing his mind. Then he heard a voice in his head, taunting him. "You can't hide forever." Thomas cried out, clutching his head. The pain intensified. He stumbled back, knocking over the TV stand. The noise startled Emma awake. She rushed to Thomas's side, her eyes filled with concern. "What's wrong?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Before Thomas could answer, the pain in his head vanished as quickly as it had come. He looked up at Emma, his eyes wide with fear. He had to get her out of the city, away from here. But as he met Emma's gaze, he saw the confusion in her eyes. She didn't know what he was talking about. Then it hit him. She couldn't hear the reporter's thoughts. Maybe being able to hear minds wasn't a choice? Maybe it was something you were born with. Like Thomas, Emma might not have known she had the ability to hear minds until she entered the city. But unlike Thomas, she wouldn't have been able to block them out. All the voices, the good, the bad, the ugly, would have been assaulting her senses. Thomas felt a surge of protectiveness wash over him. He had to help her, shield her from the cacophony. But how? He didn't know the first thing about mind reading. Then he remembered the hotel room, the piece he'd found in the quiet solitude. Maybe that was the answer. He led Emma to his car and drove them both out of the city. The voices grew fainter as they went, until it was just the hum of the engine and the soft murmur of the radio. When they stopped for gas, Thomas bought some snacks and water. He handed the water to Emma, his fingers brushing hers. She looked up at him, her eyes searching his. "I don't understand what's happening," she whispered, "but I trust you." Thomas felt a wave of emotion wash over him, gratitude, love, protectiveness. He didn't know how long they would be safe, but he intended to make the most of the time they had. He pulled Emma close, burying his face in her hair. The voices might still be there, but right now, in this moment, there was only Emma and him. And that was enough. For now, they were safe, hidden away from the prying ears and wandering minds of the city. But Thomas knew that peace was fragile. He could still hear the whispers on the wind, carrying secrets and lies. And he could feel the darkness that lurked in the corners of this town, waiting for its next victim. He held Emma a little tighter, determined to protect her. Their journey was far from over.